I'm Emily, and in this video, we're going to be talking about point of view in fiction. As opposed to nonfiction writing, which serves to inform a reader about a topic, fiction writing is meant to entertain readers, and it comes from the author's imagination. And so because it is not limited by this need to be true that exists in nonfiction writing, authors can use a wide variety of techniques to make their writing more interesting, and they have a lot of creative liberty to make decisions about how they will tell a story. So one of the most basic decisions that a fiction author must make with their story is what point of view it will be told from and what perspective will be used to tell the story. Every story has a narrator, which is the voice that the story is being told from. So sometimes narrators can be a character, or sometimes it is just a general overarching description of the events that are happening. So there are two main types of narration, which are first-person narration and third-person narration. And within third person, there are some subcategories. So we're going to talk today about all of these different types of narration and how to identify them. First-person narration is usually the voice of one of the characters speaking from their own perspective. So it would be if someone is just telling a story of something that happened to them, that would be first-person narration. And so some words that you can look for to try and determine whether a story is told in the first person would be we, us, my, me, things like that. So as an example, we have, I looked at Tim feeling tense. I didn't know what to say. Tim stared back at me. So because this snippet of a story uses the word I and me, it is told from a first person perspective. So the narrator is this character who is looking at Tim, and he's telling the story from his own point of view. So third person narration is told by sort of a general narrator who is outside of the story. So not by one of the characters themselves, but someone sort of like describing from the outside something that happened. So if I were to tell a story about something that happened to one of my friends, I would be telling it from the third person narration, describing what happened to them. And so in this form of narration, the narrator does not speak from their own perspective and has sort of a broader point of view that is less personal. So there are two types of third person narration. The first is third person limited. So in this case, the narrator could only describe the thoughts and feelings of a single character. So it's almost as if this narrator lives inside the brain of a single character of the story and can therefore describe to readers what that person is thinking and feeling and what happens to them, but is limited in that it cannot take on other perspectives, and it can't tell what's going on inside of other characters' heads. So it's limited by this one character that it's sort of following around. So for an example here, we have Bill looked at Tim feeling tense. He didn't know what to say. Tim merely stared back. So in this example, we can see how the third person limited narrator is sort of following Bill in this case, because we are able to see how Bill is thinking in the situation. So we can see that he didn't know what to say. However, we don't know in this case what Tim is feeling. We just see that he stared back. So we're limited by this perspective that we have of the narrator describing Bill's perspective of the story, but not anybody else's. The other type of third person narration would be omniscient. So the word omniscient just means all-knowing. So this kind of a narrator would have more of a wide view of all the characters and all the events in the story, and be able to switch between them or describe a situation in its entirety rather than being limited by one perspective of the situation. So for an example here, we have Bill looked at Tim feeling tense. He didn't know what to say. Tim stared back, wondering when Bill would finally speak. Neither man knew what was about to occur. So we can see how this example uses third person omniscient point of view, because we are able to see what Bill is feeling and thinking, and also what Tim is feeling and thinking, and also hear about an event that is going to occur that the characters themselves don't know about. So this third person narrator, who is omniscient, can see all of these different things and is not coming from a single perspective of a single character, a single point of view. So why would authors use different perspectives in fiction writing? This is one technique that authors use to make a story more interesting. So, for example, if they want a reader to be able to see things that are going to happen before the characters know, they might choose to use third person omniscient as a way to sort of give the readers insight onto what's going to happen, and not be limited by what a character is feeling. However, if an author wanted the reader to really empathize with a certain character and really relate to them, then they might choose to use the first person point of view, so that the reader is seeing things through one character's eyes. There can also be sort of ways that authors can blend these different forms of narration, or switch between different points of view. So, for example, some books might alternate narrators for different chapters. So you could have two different first person points of view if you have two characters and each chapter maybe is told from the perspective of one and then the other. And so it's really helpful in as readers to understand the book or the story and to understand what the author is intending to convey, if we understand the perspective being used. So that's kind of the why it's helpful. And conversely, if we ourselves are writing something, it's really helpful to think about what perspective would best serve our story and how we want it to be told. Thank you.